It being 5:05, we'll call the meeting of the Ayer Board of Health on June the 6th to order. And the first item on the agenda is an executive session. If someone would make a motion to go into executive session?
I'll make a motion to go into executive session.
I think you have to read.
Have to read.
Yeah, I will. You have to read the
This one?
Yes.
Thank you. Executive session pursuant to Mass General Law 30A, Section 21A, Exemption number 3, to discuss litigation strategy with respect to the case of Mimi's Place, LLC versus Board of Health of the Town of Ayer et al., Middlesex Superior Court, CA 2181 CB 4967. If discussing the matter in open session will have a detrimental effect on the town's litigating position, and the chair so declares.
The chair so declares. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Hearing no discussion. Ms. Peters?
Aye.
I was going to say your name.
I know.
Mr. Slavsky, aye. So the board is now in executive session. Board of Health is back in open session. First item on the agenda is to ask if there's any public input. Seeing none, we'll move on. Discussion regarding COVID-19. Ms. Brake? It's you.
What's going on?
I'm trying not to think about it, but it's. I think the numbers they went back up. I think they're coming back down a little bit. Were we at 8%?
No,
I think we had 54 cases.
We've been below the Middlesex and the state average consistently for about the last month.
Okay, and I thought we went up a little.
It went up, but it's still below the state.
Okay, good. Yeah, I mean, we've had and it doesn't really pertain, I think, to right now. The calls that I have been getting aren't really specific for Ayer, but they are more around what's happening is daycares, things like that. They're starting to have issues because parents are sending kids back too soon, things like that. But it's all stuff that they just have to work it out, I think, as time goes on.
I read something in the Globe that Massachusetts has really low demand for that second booster. Is that kind of what?
Depends. I mean, Ayer is phenomenal with vaccine rates.
Do you mean the third? No? I mean,
No, it would actually
no,
be
the
your
first two, it would be your second.
Yeah, it would
right?
be your
Yeah.
second booster, your fourth
Yeah.
shot.
Yeah, I mean, it's comparing to other towns around, it really, I mean, it is impressive. It was sort of like an aha moment last
Yeah.
week.
Yeah.
A good portion of people, I think 65 and over have been boosted, 50 and over as well.
That's great.
So it is something to be proud of because other towns have much, it's sad.
Is anyone tracking those second booster rates separately to kind of see what
They must because we get the statistics, so
Yeah.
that goes out every.
It's got to be
every week,
reported.
is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does the pharmacy just report it directly? Or?
I think the pharmacy, what happens is I think they report to DPH maybe,
DPH.
and then
got it.
DPH might go to CDC possibly.
Yeah,
But
okay.
it all gets tracked.
Yeah.
We need to move on to the next item on the agenda, which is discussion regarding the SHOBA. So the discussion regarding the SHOBA is there is a body, someone who is deceased, has no next of kin. I believe this person died back in April. And
That's so sad.
the SHOBA found, I'm sure one of their attorneys found a law that said the town that the hospital is located in can approve of the disposal or burying of the body through the Board of Health. And I saw the chapter and the law
Yeah.
in my experience, I've never been asked to approve of burying a body. And I would ask that we forward this to town council for a recommendation, but I think we need to do this quickly because this has been dragging
There
on
must be a
now.
time limit too.
Well,
Yeah, would
I
think.
can just
Yes.
imagine that the body's been there since April, so.
Yeah, I know.
Um,
At Michelle.
At Neshoba.
Okay.
So I would ask that, can we forward this to town council post haste for a recommendation from town council? If town council says, we see no issue, this is commonplace,
Okay.
if the board would give approval, I'll sign on behalf of the board so it doesn't have to wait till another
Yep.
meeting.
That makes sense.
We send it tonight, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Is there a motion to allow the chair to sign on behalf of the board based on the recommendation of council?
Yes, I move that we allow the chair.
Okay, is there a second?
I second it.
Motion is made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's good.
Is it do we have an identification?
I don't
It's not
know where the
identified.
person's from. I don't know anything about the person.
That would be the only thing that would make
Jim,
me stop and think.
Jim
is-
called me a couple weeks ago about this, and I talked to him on my birthday.
Yeah, oh, jeez, happy birthday.
Well, I was singing at the Shuffle Club having a beer, so it was okay.
Okay, that's it.
So anyhow, we'll move on with that. The minutes from May 23rd, I was not at that meeting, so if you two
Oh,
are okay with it.
Yes,
oh, yeah.
I was fine with them. I did review them. It looks, everything here looks correct and it is what we discussed.
Just have your signature.
Yeah, is there a
Yes.
motion to approve the minutes?
Yes, I move that we approve the minutes of May 23rd as they stand.
Is there a second?
I second.
Motion is made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
And
Aye.
I'm abstaining, but I will sign on behalf of the board. Robert, can I give this to you as the
Yep.
official copy? Bridget, anything else from the show?
So I forgot the envelope. Two things. So we had a complaint come in. I had talked to Steve in depth about this, about noise, dust, odor, idling trucks, train horns. It was all lumped
Okay.
into
Yes.
one complaint.
Okay.
So we looked into it. I have not been able to, it was regarding Bacon Joy. I also
Okay.
contacted DEP just to let them know, see if they've had any other complaints,
Yeah.
any issues with that building. I've been by a couple times a week. Steve has been by. We haven't seen anything. I asked the police to follow up because one of the time frames that they were complaining about was somewhere between 2 and 4 in the morning. So for the past, I think the last week maybe, they went by all week. The police didn't hear or see anything. They went to the complainants section of the building, didn't see or hear anything, so.
I've been by numerous times,
Yep.
different times of the day. The only thing that I can find, that I can think would legitimize any complaint is that the intermodal train traffic has increased dramatically.
Oh,
I
yeah,
know
yeah,
that.
yeah.
And they back the
Yeah.
train up to go into the rail yard.
Got it.
And that crossing can be closed for a significant amount of time.
Yeah.
And the traffic backs up from the crossing all the way up Westford Road.
Yeah.
So I could see that as being an issue. It's nothing that we have any control over.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But was the noise and everything from more related to trains or trucks?
I
or
think it
is
was,
both?
I think it was trains, trucks, idling trucks, the cooling unit on the top of the roof maybe too.
Oh,
I think there were multiple,
but it's not a train thing or a truck thing, it's kind of,
I've been there,
Yeah, I
the
think
refrigeration
we'll-
units were turned off and the trucks, they weren't running at all. There were 8 trailers there, I told Bridget, and none of them were running.
okay.
No trucks were idling, the refrigeration units weren't running. There was no more noise there than there was at my house.
But is the person that's complaining, are they in proximity? Is there a different, like, you're not getting complaints from somebody else, it's only one?
only one complaint, it's the
And-
condos across from me.
Right, and is that person's residence in, like, proximity where it would be any different than it would be for the other people in the building, in those condos?
So if she's in the front, sort of, there is a part that's closer to Bacon Joy than the,
And that's what she is?
I think so. So the police went to her specific unit and kind of sat out in front, so.
But are there other units kind of out front where,
Yeah.
that are similarly close?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And the only other thing is we had a complaint about a RV unit on a Mandry Way.
Okay.
And it was one of those things, the complaint came through the building department's office. He went out over the course of a few weeks and it never moved. I went out, it never moved, so I sent a letter, which I can scan and email that to the owner of the property, just saying that that's not allowed without approval from the Board of Health, it's temporary housing. Yeah, and she called and said that it's her RV, it's just parked and it's plugged in, there's no one living in it.
Okay.
Because it's plugged, her refrigerator.
But it is plugged in, okay. Yeah.
So, not an issue. But that's,
If the board will approve, I spoke to Mr. Gilbert this morning, and I mentioned to him that if he had questions that the board would want to make a comment before the hearing, he could be included under public input. And I'll ask Mr. Gilbert if he'd like to do that, or do you want to wait for the hearing?
I'll wait for the hearing.
Okay.
So,
The hearing will not be a question and answer period, just so you know.
Sure.
As I mentioned. I don't see any bills, there's no action items that I'm aware of. And
Oh, the only action items, Steve, were from the last meeting.
Yeah, follow up from
Follow up
that presentation.
with, we also had talked about following up with ACE.
Yeah.
And who was the representative that was here? Janet Montgomery?
Yeah, from,
Yeah.
from the one from.
So
yes.
those were the two things that we were going to try and make sure we had put on the agenda.
Yeah, I think
Either
they're
the
coming
next-
to, did we decide that we were going to have them at our next regular meeting, which would be next month, correct? We still have a meeting next month?
it's up to you guys.
Oh, okay, all right.
I'm not sure of my schedule, so.
So that's something we'll have to think about, but I
Yeah.
did want to mention that those two
Yeah, exactly.
were upcoming.
We do
Okay.
have chicken permits.
Oh, yay.
There's 6 Whitcomb Avenue, 4 Moore Drive, 9 Victor Drive, 18 Wright Road, which is not my house, 17 Sandy Pond Road, and 47 Highland Ave. These are the permits that I'm aware of. Is there a motion to approve the permits?
Oh, yeah, I move that we approve all the permits you just listed.
I second it.
Okay, motion is made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
We had so many chickens in the town. It's a big
Is
thing.
there a motion to adjourn the open session of the Ayer Board of Selectmen? We'll take a
Board of
5-minute,
Health.
or it's like the Board of Health, so it keeps in there.
We can't control it.
Board of Health.
No.
I make a motion that we adjourn open session of the Board of Health.
Is there a second?
I second.
Motion's made and second to adjourn. We'll adjourn until 6 o'clock and we will convene the public hearing on meeting space. So the board is in adjournment, conducting a public hearing. We come back in, we're in open session.
Recording in progress.
The board will come to order for the purpose of a public hearing regarding a motel license for Mimi's Place, LLC, 96 East Main Street. Trish, would you read the motel license notice, the hearing notice?
This one. Town of Ayer notice of public hearing application to operate a motel 96 East Main Street. In accordance with the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 140, Section 32B, the Ayer Board of Health will hold a public hearing on June 6, 2022 at 6 p.m. in the first floor meeting room at the Ayer Town Hall, 1 Main Street, for the purpose of conducting a hearing for the motel license for Mimi's Place, LLC, 96 East Main Street, Ayer, Mass. The board will hear evidence and testimony from interested parties, including from member of the public, and will decide whether to issue said license. Please note that while an option for remote attendance and/or participation via Zoom is being provided as a courtesy to the public. Copies of the license file are available at the Board of Health office by contacting Heather Hampson at 978-772-8220, extension 145, or by email hhampson@ayer.ma.us. Any person interested or wishing to be heard on the proposed application should appear at the time and place designated or provide written comment by June 1st, 2022. This meeting will be live on Zoom, and the public may access the proceedings by joining Zoom meeting ID number 880-9915-1478, or by calling 301-715-8592. Your Board of Health, Stephen Solarsky, Chair.
Thanks, Trish. Before we begin, Cindy, do we have town council on Zoom?
We do.
Is she, where?
She is.
Janelle?
Yep.
Hello,
Hi, Janelle.
good evening, thank you.
Thank you for joining us. We're beginning the public hearing. For the purpose of the hearing, we'll hear testimony from officials of the town of Ayer. We'll hear anything that the proponent wants to contribute based on the application. The board will ask any questions. It is not from public participation. The public is welcome to make comments after the board has listened to the applicant. It will be limited to 2 minutes. That's it, in terms of public comment. And the only thing that I would ask that any public comment be civil. It is not a question and answer period. Is there any questions from anybody? Then I would ask that from a town official perspective, Charlie?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
You were looking at me, I thought you were calling.
No. I thought we'd start with the police chief. We'll go in the order of the row. The police chief, the fire chief, and Charlie. Chief, could you give us an update? Please join us. And thanks for being here tonight. Pleasure.
Good evening, everybody.
At the last public hearing that we had regarding the application, which I believe was in 2021 November, there was significant police activity that occurred at that location. And we've asked the chief to update us in terms of if anything different has happened, if anything new has happened. So, Chief.
Sure. As you remember, we were kind of in a very unscientific kind of rundown of the calls of service we had out there. We kind of went through 3 years of data leading up to the September 2021. We went from in the 18 to 19 year, we went to 3 kind of neighborhood issues that would affect the neighborhood. And then from 2019 to 2020, and we're using the time frame September from 1 year to through August. So in the 19 to 20 year, we went up to 14 of those type of calls, and then in the 20 to 21 year is when we highlighted kind of like a remarkable jump to 45. So what I've done for the board tonight is just kind of highlight those same type of calls and where we're at to date. So we're really at a 9-month mark, but it's I think it's a kind of a telling picture. So we're only at 14 of those type of calls where we're at now. Just to kind of verify my data, I went back to the 2 years prior and see where we were at in the same kind of time frame. So using that same 9-month period throughout, because the summer activity, windows are open, disturbance calls tend to come in a little bit more frequently then. So I wanted to kind of rule out, that we just didn't have a big jump in the summer months. So I went back and looked. In the 20 to 21 year, we were at 20. And then in the year prior to that, we were at 5. So we still have, so we're showing that same trend where we have that 20 to 21 year where there's, we jump up from a single digit to a 20s. And then in this year, we're down to 14. So I would say that we're seeing, the possibility of, a downward trend of these type of calls.
And you said, what was the number for 2020 to 21?
2020 to 2020, are we talking the 9-month period, or do you want to,
No, the whole.
so going back to that previous meeting, the 20 to 21 was 45 calls.
Okay,
And that's for a 1-year period.
all right.
Chief, are you comfortable mentioning the type of calls that they have been generically, not specifically?
Yeah, so I kind of broke it down into disturbances, noise complaints. If we had done a search warrant for narcotics, if we were there to serve a warrant arrest, if we went there for a disturbance type call, and if we made an arrest out of that. If there were any suspicious medical type calls that may indicate like an overdose, which would be indicative of a drug use. If there was assaults, and any suspected drug activity, and what popped up in the latest one was a parking complaint. So those are the ones we looked at. So kind of calls that would affect the neighborhood and negatively impact the neighborhood. So so looking at the data I have, it appears that we're kind of on a downward trend on those type of calls there.
Good. Any questions in the chief?
The data, do you see an uptick in season?
Yeah, I mean.
Winter versus summer? Or the warmer months versus?
Yeah, I mean, so if we use the 20 to 21 year, so right now in this 9-month period that we're in, we're at the same time last year, we had 20 calls, but for that entire year, it jumped up to 45. So there is a remarkable, uptick to that, and it's the warmer weather. People are outside, windows are open, so, there's more, noticing of any type of disturbance stuff.
Any other questions? Yeah? Good. Chief, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Chief Johnston? So just to update the public, there was an inspection done of the premises, I believe it was on April the 14th, and I was there for the inspection as well for most of it. Chief, any?
Yep, I can just update you from that inspection we had with, as you said, a couple people here. There was nothing really significant. A couple of things to note, we had a fire extinguisher that wasn't charged. I believe that was in the office area. All the smoke detectors that we checked just on those, I believe there were 6 units, were up to date. And the only thing significant to report, as you recall, those who were there were unable to get into that unit that was off of the office area. I think it was occupied, I'm not sure, whether it was not part of the request. So we were unable to inspect that portion of it from the fire department side. And then other than that inspection, we have nothing unusual to report on the property. So, but I'd have to answer any questions if you have any.
Thanks, Chief.
No?
Sure. Chief, thanks for taking
Okay,
time.
no problem at all.
Our building inspector, and just so people are clear, what the hearing is based upon the application that the board received and was updated, I believe, last week. It's for rooms 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Although it says 6 out of 12, I don't know what that means. But that is what the application, that's all that we're looking at tonight.
Okay.
Yep.
So for the building department, inspection-wise, I really didn't have anything. We had some jealousy windows, I think, at each end of a common area that were in a wet area that would need to be protected, but that would be it for inspection purposes. Along with the fire department, I had the same issues they did with their extinguishers. My question to the board would be, since there's 3 buildings that are connected and there is approximately 10 units, if you grant a license for 6 of them, what happens to the other 4 connecting units because they're all in one building physically?
I would ask town council for comment regarding that. I had a similar conversation earlier today about the same thing, Charlie.
Okay.
Janelle, can you hear us okay?
Sure, through you, Mr. Chair. In my opinion, the board may decide in its discretion whether or not to issue the license to a portion of the premises. That wouldn't preclude the town or the board, in my opinion, from having to enforce any of the other relevant building or sanitary codes that may apply to the remaining portion of the premises. I would also note that as the board is aware, there's the pending order from last fall that the Board of Health had issued with respect to the entirety of the property. So I hope that answers the question. Certainly, it's my understanding that the applicant has designated certain portions of the premises, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, with respect to what he now seeks a license for. As the board is aware, there's currently no license for the property. That being said, the remaining portion of the property as a whole obviously still needs to meet the requirements of the building code, the fire code, the sanitary code. That would all apply generally as it would to any other property. I hope that answers the question, Mr. Schultz.
So if this license is granted for 6, when it comes to fire protection, these buildings are all interconnected, which means which use group would I use for the rest of the 4 units?
It would be however the applicant or the owner is designating the remaining portion of the property.
Yeah, but a person just can't designate what they want to use their property as. It has to fit into zoning.
Correct.
And they have to tell me what use group they're in order for me to do a complete review on the whole property. So I'm in a quandary here. I don't know how to classify the property if they break it up into 6 units compared to 10 or 20 as it goes by the building code and fire code.
And certainly the board may want to clarify that with the property owner in terms of the remaining portion of the property. Because what I understand is that what's pending before the board is just for those specific rooms for a motel. And there's some designation based on the paperwork that's been recently submitted to the town that the remaining portions would constitute. I think they've been designated as apartments, but I would seek the applicant's attorney, who I believe is there tonight, to confirm that status for the town.
My concern would be they don't fit into the category of apartments by the town zoning. They've never been licensed as apartments. So I don't know how they can just say they're apartments now. I mean, I have to deal with the fire protection and the building code, and the buildings are all physically connected, so out of the building code, that makes them 1 unit. I don't know.
Yeah.
I could see they could grant 10 or 20, but not 6 is very difficult.
Yeah, you're saying it's this issue of splitting the 6 off from the 4.
From the 10.
Yeah, true, from the 10.
Because it's always
Yeah.
been licensed as a motel, hotel, all 20 units, or the last license that they've applied for and were granted was 20 units.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if you take the back portion off, which is the 10, you're still left with 10 that are
Still
physically
left with 10.
connected. It's like having a condo and all of a sudden you're gonna call, half of it this and half of it that. It doesn't,
Yeah,
it's not easy to determine which part needs what sort of protection through the building code and
Right.
fire protection safety like that. And like I said, they don't meet the criteria for apartments because a 1 dwelling unit has to have 750 square feet in the town of Ayer, so they can't be apartments. It's like, I can't just call my house a restaurant because I have a kitchen and I want to cook food and serve people.
Yeah.
You just can't do that, in my opinion.
yeah.
I don't know how you can just do that. So, those are my issues, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman.
Okay.
Any other-
I appreciate your time, Charlie.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Is there anyone else from the town that wants to be heard? Bridget, did you have anything?
Do you want me to read just the stuff that we saw during the inspection?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. So the inspection was on April
April 14th
14th?
at 10 a.m.
Yeah.
So we started walking through the common area, and this is just some notes of things that we saw, and I think we might have more to add. So in the common area, the wall was in disrepair at the end of the corridor by, I think it was unit 11. Corridor floor, a section of the floor was covered with plywood. Several of the doors were in disrepair. The wood was chipping sort of at the bottom of the doors. Window slats were broken in the common corridor. There was some chipping and peeling paint. There's no lead certificate on file for this property, and so we've always had it as a hotel or motel, and a lead certificate wouldn't necessarily be needed because it was for short-term transient housing. And now there are children under 6, so the lead law comes into effect with the property. As far as the motel room, some of the things we saw in room 11, some dead bugs. One was possibly a roach, silverfish, broken electrical outlet behind the TV. Room 10 had a broken, cracked porcelain soap dish. Some of the rooms had human hairs in the bed. This was one of them, and dirty bedding. The mini refrigerator was dirty. Room 9 had stains on the bedding. End table had dirt in it and evidence of marijuana. Room 6 had some dirty bedding. Light above the tub did not work. Furniture, some of the sitting furniture was damaged or soiled, and they had covers on them. All of the rooms had a strong odor of must or mildew. A couple of the rooms had considerable cigarette smoke to them. I think that was specific to room 7 and 8. The signage in all of the rooms was inconsistent. There were no smoking signs were not posted on the property. In the utility room, linen storage area, we just found that the linens weren't some of the linens were not stored in a sanitary manner. Some were exposed to elements. Bedding like comforters and blankets were dirty. The pool gate was not secure. Gate was not locked. The cover of the pool had a considerable amount of standing water, which is a potential breeding ground for insects as it gets warmer. And just as a side note, the pool still isn't licensed. That would be through our office. I don't know if you had anything else.
No. Trish or Pam, do you have any questions?
I have it in front of me.
And the rooms were unoccupied at the time that you did the inspection, right? They were not left to it.
I did participate in the majority of the inspections. I would confirm what Bridget has said. I guess what took me back was the smell of smoke was significant. Cigarette smoke specifically. Anyhow, anything else from the town?
Did Fire Chief leave?
Chief Johnson?
Yes.
So I just, Lieutenant Bozak had sent me an email. I just didn't know if you had covered this with the some of the smoke alarms. I'll just read it. The combination smoke alarms in 6 through 11 had the correct alarms with voice feature, but they are mounted on the walls instead of the ceiling. I don't know if you touched on that.
Yep, I can do that, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
So the law requires that they be at least 1 foot, like on the ceiling, or less than 1 feet from, lower. So to be more efficient, if you move it up off the wall rather than have it on the 12 inches on the sidewall, it's more effective. It goes off in a timely manner rather than waiting for the smoke to come down the 1 foot. So that was a recommendation. Is it a violation? Technically, no. But for the best life safety, they would be mounted on the ceiling.
Okay.
Yep.
And then the egress pathway between the office area and the motel units had furniture in the walkway, and it's used as a storage area. The egress pathway must remain clear at all times.
Yep, and I think that was something, Charlie, where
Okay.
egress is followed, but we agreed that had to get cleaned out. Yep, in
Okay.
case there's an emergency.
Okay. And then I don't know if this was a violation, that illuminated exit sign at the egress pathway between the office and motel units was not working and needed to be repaired.
Yep, and I think it comes under the building inspector, but it would have to be corrected, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And then the, sorry.
No, go ahead.
The fire fire extinguisher outside apartment 1 had no inspection tag and needs to be hung on a wall bracket. Is that something?
Yep, and I think that's something we mentioned about the
Okay.
fire extinguisher. Yep,
Okay. I just wasn't 100% sure.
yep, no, I don't mind clarifying those a
Yep.
bit.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else, Bruce?
Nope.
The next portion of the hearing will be from the applicant. Attorney Willett.
Would you like us to step up?
Please do.
Hey, Steve, sit here.
Sure.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So, as the board probably recalls, we had a hearing in November. At that hearing, we had presented that what we're talking about is these 6 units that are in the row, and we've spelled that out now in the application. Forgive me, I didn't have that in the original application. And this is what we're going forward on now. All of those rooms have been vacated. At the time of the inspection, which was April 14th, that I was present, though I wasn't allowed to come into the property. That is, as the inspection was going on, we waited outside. I had asked for a list of any issues, and this is the first I've heard these issues as they've been stated. We never received anything that told us these are the problems, these are what should be addressed. So we didn't have an opportunity to do so. I can tell you that at the time of the inspection, that a lot of it had been newly vacated, but I'm not sure how many units have been newly vacated, but suffice to say, they were not in a condition to be let out as hotel rooms. They had not been undergone that cleaning, which they would.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Because the notification of the inspection was at least a month before we were there. There was a good solid 2 to 3 weeks that we had announced that we would be there, and you had requested the inspection.
Yes, we
as
did.
well.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
But we did, I guess it wasn't clear to me that you were looking for it to be in a not rental, but a hotel to let situation at that
Yeah.
point.
I guess from my perspective, if we were there, it would be in the condition that you would expect for us to look at it to rent.
I agree.
We wouldn't be there looking at something that was less than appropriate.
It should have been cleaned, it wasn't cleaned.
No, that's absolutely, so we're in total agreement. It should have been cleaned, and it wasn't. I don't
And
disagree with that at
so,
all.
what I would suggest is a continuation of that inspection at the time that we're in that position to offer those rooms to the public. I do have a plan to lay out here with respect to these 6 rooms. Steve has been in contact with Clear Path for Veterans, which is an organization that does some tremendous work out of Devens. They deal with veterans, they provide services, they provide activities, they provide a lot to veterans that are either in need or not so much in need, but they provide a good group and a good gathering point for people, and they have a location in Devens. ClearPath had approached Steve to see if he would be willing to allow, on a short-term basis, according to the 90 days that's been set out, that he would allow people from ClearPath who are in need, not from ClearPath, veterans who are in need, to be able to stay for a short time in that facility. Now, this is a program that is overseen by the federal, I'm not sure what the department is, but it's the federal, I think it's the VA, or that, and they've come in and inspected and determined that the property was within
their guidelines and was within what they were willing to do. So this is a program that's being funded federally. And I believe I have provided a letter to the town through the town's attorney with respect to that clear path request. And if not, I do have an additional copy with me.
Do you know when that inspection was done?
I believe it was done before the 14th, before the inspection that we just talked about here.
So the Board of Health is having this hearing regarding licenses of a hotel motel and whatever the requirements are under the law of a hotel motel. But the board does not look at who would be occupying that.
That's fair.
And there is no deference from this board towards the VA, towards veterans, or anybody else, as long as they comply with the law as it relates to a hotel motel in the Commonwealth and the bylaws of the town of Ayer. Period.
I agree.
You know, so
I agree with that statement, and I don't dispute that. I think it might be helpful to know that that federally this has been inspected, and it did pass muster federally.
Thank you. Is there anything else? One of the comments that I'd like to ask you
Sure.
is, we met with you in November.
Yes.
And we turned down the license for numerous reasons. But there was also conditions that we agreed to at the public hearing, I guess it was a public hearing, for compliance. Did Mr. Wenzel comply with the orders that were issued from November?
So the issues that were raised to us as far as what it would take to come into compliance were issues of oversight, I think was the biggest issue. And Mr. Wenzel has secured two individuals who do live on the property to be managers, one in the day, one at night. And those individuals are to be known, one during the day, that's Tara Manchester. During the night is going to be Stephen LaRose. These are two people who are going to be on the premises and available to people who have issues and can contact Mr. Wenzel if and when there's an emergency, but also as any complaints may come up. So I think that we're addressing that issue of oversight, and I think that was the main thing, was the 24/7 observation or presence on that property. And so we have taken those steps. Stephen has he has a contract, or has had a contract with People's Linen, which we provided a copy to the town. Pest control, he's to use Waltham Pest. He will be posting rates for the rooms.
Do you have that information this evening?
Which information?
What you're going to post? Rates?
No, I don't have that to present in a form.
It was on the door when you guys walked in.
That my recollection, and Bridget helped me with this, is the posting of anything was inconsistent between rooms. And some of the postings, I think, probably went back to the 60s because they addressed the telephone number as Spruce, SP. It used to be SP,
Yeah.
and then the number. But nothing had...
Well, obviously, that's not the posting we're relying upon.
Well, I'm just saying, we did an inspection, and that's what we saw. So, I mean,
No, I appreciate that. So these are postings that are going to have to be in the location of the office where people check in and check out. And so that's I think that's where Steve said that it was posted on the door.
wouldn't
but
you
we can-
agree, though, that we need to see these
Yeah,
things.
I
in
do.
terms of
I do, and I can
taking
provide that.
action.
I can provide
I
that.
don't know how we would go forward without having that. Anyhow, but thank you. There was another condition, though, as well, that was part of that order in November, that the premises be vacated. And that was the entire premises. And I believe the board was incredibly sensitive to winter months and not wanting to relocate anybody. And in numerous conversations, there was supposedly a plan to bring the property into compliance. That didn't happen. But there was no evidence of the property being vacated as the order. And again, this board is totally sensitive. We don't look at putting anybody out. But at the same time, that was part of the order that was issued from that November meeting. Can you just update us what happened? Did you just,
So when
was
we,
it just ignored, or?
no, nothing has been ignored.
I'm not,
And I'm not
trying to be insightful. I'm just.
I appreciate that. I attended the meeting. As you know, I attempted to to go into what is happening in the back property. You, as chairman, had limited the scope of the hearing to just those 6 units.
It certainly did.
And so,
But the license that was at the time was for the entire property. It wasn't just for those 6 units. The license that was, there was an injunctive order, I believe, issued against the Board of Health. And that's what promulgated the meeting in November,
yes.
was that time frame. So the
So
license.
my interpretation of my honest understanding and interpretation of what this order from this Board of Health is that we are limiting this hearing to the 6 units, and we are limiting to the 6 units this order to vacate.
Yes.
And as I look at the decision from the board, the written decision, it talks about the 6 units that that the license is not to be issued for those 6 units, and that the motel premises are to be vacated.
Sure.
So and forgive me, it's not, if the decision of this board was that we were to have everybody out from everywhere, that's on me as far as my interpretation.
That's what the letter stated, and there were 2 hearings that night for continuation. There was the continuation that you sought injunctive relief against the board, which I believe that meeting was in April, May, or June, and we were enjoined from doing anything until the court gave their order. And when the court gave the order, we had to go back and continue that meeting. And that meeting was on the original license for the entire premises. And then there was a second part of that meeting that night, which was specific to a new application that you had applied. But the order was based on the license that you had. It wasn't based on the license that you applied for and was denied.
That was my interpretation, and again, I'm not trying to play
I
fast and
understand.
loose here.
I understand. I also appreciate if you didn't get a copy of the inspection report, we'll get you a copy of it. But,
Please.
you know,
We're trying to work.
we're
Trying to work
we're trying to
together.
do the same thing.
And if you would, Mr. Chair, take a look at the letter that was issued on November 19th. Thank you. On November 19, it says, based upon the following.
Is this from the town?
This is dated November 19, signed Ayer Board of Health by Bridget Braley as agent. Based upon the following public hearing, you're notified that 2001 motel, and I'm sorry, I'm reading from a paragraph on the second page. The second full paragraph on that page starts with based upon.
During the course of the public hearing?
Based upon the following following the public hearing, you are hereby notified that 2021 motel license restated by the court has been terminated. Your 2022 license for 6 motel rooms has been denied. You are hereby advised that no person shall conduct, control, manage, or operate directly, indirectly any motel at the premises at this time, which is what we have complied with. You are further ordered that the motel premises must be vacated of all occupants before April 1st, 2022, unless you're the holder of a license granted by the Board of Health. So my interpretation of that, as I read that whole paragraph, the premises in question, the motel premises, was that which we were limited to, and I kept asking at the hearing, you don't want to hear about the rest of this. The scope of this hearing is to those 6. So we have vacated those 6.
There were 2 separate hearings that night. The first one was based on the license that you had for 2021.
One hearing covering the 2, I think, applications.
No, it was 2 separate hearings. We voted and then we reconvened to hear your application for the 6 units. There were 2 distinctly separate parts of that meeting.
My memory is no, that wasn't.
I'll ask the board members.
That's
That's,
what we had.
that's exactly what I had in mind.
We had 2 hearings.
We took up the application, not the application, the license that you had. And that was remanded to us from the court. And we denied that license. That license was terminated at that time. And then you gave us an application for just the 6 units.
Yes.
We deliberated, we debated that, and voted against giving a license for the 6 units.
I agree that was the end result, but I've looked at the hearing since. I've looked at the video, and it talks about. Yeah, I'm sorry. There's a single hearing that takes place. At the end of that, you pose that there are 3 questions to be determined at that hearing. Number 1, whether the 2021 license is to be reissued or extended. Whether to issue, number 2, whether to issue a license for 2022, and then number 3, dealing with issues of the removal of people from that location.
Our recollection is a little bit different.
I looked at it today.
Separate interpretation.
Understood.
From council's perspective, and I don't want to put you on the spot, Janelle, but you were present, I believe, for that hearing?
That's correct. I think I can clarify through you, Mr. Chair. It's clear, in my opinion, that the intent of the board's decision was specifically to take action on the prior 2021 license that contained or dealt with the entire premises, as well as review the request for 6 rooms based on what the applicant had submitted prior to that November 2021 hearing. I do have a copy of the board's decision in front of me, and it's clear based on the last paragraph of the board's decision that the property was ordered to cease and desist from any and all action or activity to establish or operate such a motel in the town of Ayer unless and until full compliance with applicable laws demonstrated and a required license is issued. And then it goes on to say specifically what is required with respect to the entire premises. The board's intent, in my opinion, was clearly to indicate that the 2021 license no longer was operative, in addition that the request for the modified license for 2022 would not be allowed based on the board's proceedings that evening and the decision that ultimately issued following that hearing after review of all the information submitted.
Thank you, Janelle.
Thank you.
Which, as I believe that we complied with that by not running a motel, by shutting down the motel. That was the 6 units that had been the limitation of the hearing that had occurred on in November. As I and I indicated that I have reviewed the audio today, and I do see in the audio support for what you're saying that I did not see at the time of the hearing, which was, I believe Ms. Peters had asked, are we just limiting this to 6 units? And your response was, and this is language that was not part of the vote, but your response was, it's all that's contained in the application for 2021. Now, I completely missed that in what I had heard, so it's not an intention to disregard what this board had ordered. I thought that we were in strict compliance with what the board had ordered.
Is there anyone else? Pam, do you have any other questions for the applicant?
I think you just answered one of my questions. That was, so it's your position that you misunderstood.
Yes.
And you did not think
Yes.
that it applied to the units in back. Okay. The information.
And I'm sorry,
That's
also
okay.
adding to that, the fact that we were not allowed to go into issues of what was happening in the back and to be able to argue our point and to be able to have a meaningful hearing with respect to what was happening in the back. And I had asked numerous times during my talking during this hearing, are we just limiting this hearing to these 6 units? And the response that I received back was, we don't have jurisdiction over the rest of this. Yes, we are limiting this to these 6 units. So it's based upon that. And there's much more information of that as I in my review of the hearing than there is with respect to a couple of sentences that can, in hindsight, be reinterpreted. And that's how I've reinterpreted it, as in
There were 2
hindsight.
separate votes that night. The first vote was based on the 2021 license. And the 2021 license accompanied the entire property. And we had already met with you numerous times in terms of what needed to be done. And there was also conversation from Mr. Wenzel that he had a plan to limit it to fall into compliance. And the board wasn't looking for anything immediate, but to be in compliance. And you gave us a listing of the people that lived there for 2 years, people that had multi-family members living in what was never intended to be long-term housing, which was a hotel motel. And the board denied the 2021 license. That was it. There was nothing about fixing up the back. That wasn't part of that meeting. The second part of that was the application. And the application was just for 6 units. And your architect at the time wanted to tell us about the back. We don't license something that's not on the application. So it was 2 separate parts. And we could debate this all night.
And
That was the
I have to
intention.
strongly state that
That's okay.
yeah, that's not the way that it
That's what
unfolded.
the recollection is of the town. But anyhow, we need to move on. Trish?
It's
do you have-
recorded.
No, I'm just looking back on my notes from that 314 meeting, and that, we were coming up on the April 1st deadline, and that deadline for eviction, and the 2021 license was terminated, and the 2022 license for the 6 rooms was denied,
Yeah.
so.
Okay.
I agree that that's what the vote was. But the fact that that it was one hearing that
Mr. Wenzel?
were denied.
Yeah, I'd like to speak with you,
Sure.
Don.
Absolutely.
I'd like to speak to the gentleman back here that came to the table first. So Chief, thank you for the numbers. I know you went from 3 to 14, and when we got into the 14 complaints, we hadn't owned it yet, but it was the beginning of the pandemic. So you saw almost a 500% increase from the 3 to the 14. Then once I took it in the dead of the pandemic, it went up to 45. And now it's going back down again as we come out of the pandemic. So I thought it was good that you pointed that out, how it went up, it peaked, and it's coming down. The fire chief, you found a fire extinguisher that one of the tenants own that's been sitting on the steps for I don't know how long, it has nothing to do with the motel. So I just want to point that out, that that's not something that's inspected, it's just sitting there, so. And Charlie, we talked a little, the jealousy windows, I only found them on one side. I thought they were on both sides. But it's only on one side. You said something about blocking it, so I want to know what that meant. Just covering it up, or
Yeah, you can put a guard up against it or.
a guard?
Yeah, just to block it so anything under 5 feet needs to be protected. Because that area is partially open, they can slip.
Yeah, it's a weird kind of setup to begin with. So I don't know where the list that Bridget had, but I can tell you, if I ever buy another property, Bridget, I'm going to use you as the home inspector. So is this it here?
We're not going to go through the items on the not violations that from the inspection. We're not going to, that's not our purpose of the meeting tonight. And if you didn't have that, you need to look at that and get back to the board, but we're not going to go item by item on that list tonight.
We'd like to have an opportunity to do just that.
Absolutely.
Why are we here if I can't do that?
We're not going through,
hang on,
you
Steve.
didn't have it, we're not going through the items, that's not the purpose of the hearing.
May I respond to one other aspect
Sure.
of the idea that these three buildings are connected? They're not connected insofar as one building, you can enter the other building. You have a roof that overhangs that overhangs an area that's a walkway between the buildings, and that roof is connected on the top, but otherwise the buildings are not connected. There are three separate buildings.
Charlie? First, the owner's unit is connected by a stairway up from the lobby with a petition.
That's true. That's one of the units.
Well,
yes.
you said they weren't connected. They are.
No, I said
And the roofs.
three buildings are not connected. I'm not
You're
separating those
looking
two
for 6
buildings.
units. That's a 7th unit. That's not part of this hearing that you're asking for.
True.
And it's connected, so that's not true. And the roofs are connected on the other 2 buildings, and if you ask the chief, as soon as the buildings are connected, they need fire protection, and those buildings weren't designed for that. So I don't know how you can separate the 6 and not, without coming with what use group they are in, because that's where it all starts when it comes to building fire protection. This is for the protection of the residents in there.
Just to be clear, I'm not saying that the office is not connected to the owner's unit. It is, but that's one building. The other building is the 6 units that is the subject of this hearing. That's a
Yeah.
separate building
They're physically connected by the roofs.
by the roofs. That's
It
my
doesn't
point.
matter. They are physically connected. You show me in the building code where it says that, that doesn't make them physically connected.
Thank you. There's things that we're not going to determine here this evening.
Understood.
Any other comments from the applicant?
Can we be given that opportunity to put before the Board of Health those corrective measures that have...
The board will make a decision at the end of the public hearing. And public hearing is so the public can be heard.
All right.
And we'll allow anyone that wants to speak in favor or against the application for 2 minutes. That's it. So anyone that wants to speak either via Zoom or that is here this evening, we'll grant them the 2 minutes.
Should we step back, or?
Oh, sure. That'd be fine. Anything else from the board?
Yes, yeah.
Chief?
So in reference to those, as we had a little sidebar with the building inspector to make sure we're all on the same page, so, and I know Bridget was there, so is those 6 units is a strip, right? Connected by a roof. Definitely can spread fire rapidly and impacts both those units, which I think at that time we had a family of like 2 or 3 kids in that. So it does impact that. And all we're worried about here is life safety. So in those 6 units, in my mind, you have to come to a decision on what what are those other units? They're connected. So if you have a fire over here on the right side of the room, they leave that door open, it directly impacts those other, I think there were 2 units, we're not even sure, we weren't allowed in that area.
Yeah.
And that area it's got a roof, but fire can stay under that roof and go left or right. So it's definitely a life safety issue. So in my opinion, until we figure out what we're doing with what are those other units? Apartments? Part of the hotel motel? I think we need to decide that. You know, when I look through my notes, I've been to every one of these hearings, and like the last thing I knew, everyone was supposed to get out when we were supposed to figure this out, and that never happened. So I think, you know, we had a sidebar to make sure we're on the same page, and I think if we don't, I just don't think they should move forward. I understand they're looking for housing, but until I think that gets resolved, whatever, I think there's a East Main Street address for one of the hotel, and do we agree that's a house? That used to be a house, I think there's 1 or 2 apartments in that, and it's directly connected to those 6 units on both sides, which impacts life safety if there's a fire in one on East Main side,
Yeah.
residents there, or in one of those 6 units out back. Because the ones who have to own up to that are us, you know, if there's an incident.
Thanks, Chief.
So, okay?
Is there any public comment that anyone wants to make, either in favor or against the applicant? Now would be the time. And just identify yourself and where you live.
Okay, I'm Tricia Walsh, I live at 3 Groton Harvard.
Trish, do you mind standing up, or
this
you don't have to,
side-
you don't have to come up here.
So the side of my house is on Page Street. It's the house I grew up in, and I actually knew the first owners at Casimir, and I was very good friends with the daughter, so I would run up and down the hall, so I know I know the property very well. I understand. I'm glad I came because there was a lot of things I didn't understand, and like why anybody was still living there was like top of the list. I will say it's gotten better. I mean, there's no denying that it's gotten better, but it's frustrating to me as a taxpayer that there's still a lot of work to do, and this has gone on for so long, and it's like it's still just not fixed.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, it has gotten better. There's absolutely no doubt about that. But I just feel like we have a long way to go.
Thanks, Trish.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Anyone else?
Yep, I'm Matt Crothers. I live at 5 Groton Harvard Road. I would say...
Thank you for coming, buddy.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So I would say yes, the activity has gotten better, and I appreciate what the chief said about the activity going down, but it is still a lot of activity for one location. If you had 14 calls in an entire town, okay, that might be good, but for 14 for one location, that's a lot. I got 2 kids at the end of the street, and just recently I had to call the cops on someone accosting my wife coming in. So it's not ending, he's not getting better, it's not getting better. He hasn't done anything new, different. It's always, well, we didn't know this, we didn't know that. I mean, come on, I'm not buying it. So something's got to change. Because I'm a taxpayer too, and I need to be heard. So, and I don't feel like we've completely been heard. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Identify yourself.
I'm Stephen LaRose.
I can't hear you.
I'm Stephen LaRose. I'm the one that Steve has at night when there's a problem, they come and see me. As far as it getting better, it is getting better there. I was there in the beginning. I'm still there. We couldn't fix everything after you guys did the inspection because nobody wanted to give them a list of what was wrong. How do you fix everything when you don't know what's wrong? So part of it's not fair to him. And you got to look at that. Unless you're going to give him more time to fix the rest of the stuff. You're just going to tell everyone to move out. Unless you have $2 grand to move in somewhere, you're not getting a place to live. I have bad credit. I can't find anywhere else to live. I've looked. And I make $30 an hour. It doesn't do me any good.
Thank you.
You're going to kick all of us out? It's not fair to any of us.
We're not talking about that this evening. We're talking about an application for the 6 units in the front. That's it. But I appreciate your comments. Anyone else wish to be heard?
Ruth Maxon Schultz.
Sir.
I have landlord properties, and it's just incredible how difficult it is to get people to do what you want them to do. You can post signs all over the place, whether it be no smoking or don't do this, don't do that. And your hands are basically tied because you go to the court and you're still sitting in court for 2 months waiting to get a court date. It's really very, very difficult if you get someone in there who will not do what you want them to do. And so the problem isn't just easy, do it quick, you gotta do it fast, because you can't. You try to get someone out, and right now I'm stuck in the court 2.5 years, still waiting, trying to get someone out. And it's just, we need to change the laws of the state more than we like, I know it's a state problem, and these are the laws from the state. You can't even, you're not supposed to be prejudiced against somebody, and yet you let someone in there, and then you get burned. And I know that's happened.
I'm sorry, I didn't ask you to identify yourself, but
I think I did.
did you? Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Ruth. That's a joke. Hi. All right. I've got my new hearing aids in too, but I heard myself say it.
Mine isn't working. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to be heard? Is there anyone on Zoom? Cindy, I
don't see anybody raising their hands.
Okay.
Oh, we do.
Janelle, did you have any comments?
No, thank you, Mr. Chair.
No, thank you, Janelle.
Happy to answer any questions the board may have.
That will conclude the public hearing portion of the meeting this evening. The board will make a decision in terms of how they want to go forward. And we'll discuss that now. Who would like to?
Given the fact that a lot of things haven't changed, I did hear some positives, which we had not heard in the past. That's great. Hearing from the chief and hearing from the building inspector that it's still, what is the definition? What are you licensing for? That's still up in the air. There's still some work that needs to be done, and Mr. Wetzel saying that and Attorney Lilly saying they did not get the list. That I think would be fair to give them the time to do that. But I hate to see this, I think we've said this so many times before, dragged out. This has been dragged out numerous times, and every time we come back to the table, there's always the question of, well, we've got this done, but we didn't get that done. I think if we are to give more time for any of these repairs or added things that were on the list that need to be done to come into compliance, it has to be a short amount of time. We just can't keep doing this.
Yeah, and I guess to pick up that thread, I'm looking at the list of issues that were found here, and there is not a thing on here that your average person with reasonable eyesight could not see. And in my opinion, if you have submitted an application for certain things, and you know that there are certain requirements that go along with that and certain expectations, and you have a pre-scheduled inspection, I don't really understand why there needs to be any additional time to respond to these things. Dirt in an end table, filthy bedding. Why would you have the Board of Health come in to inspect that? I mean, do you really believe that that's an appropriate condition for a motel? I don't. No. So, because I think to any reasonable person, those are not conditions that are typical characteristics of a motel hotel. In my opinion, you're still not operating a motel hotel. And that's the only thing really that we can do here is to either issue a license for a hotel motel or not. And it still doesn't look like a duck, doesn't quack like a duck, doesn't walk like a duck. It's not a duck. This is not a motel. It's not being operated as a motel. And I'm offended on Bridget's behalf that she actually had to go and do this inspection. What did you, I'm not going to ask a question, but I can't believe that anyone would think this would go well for them as a property owner.
Given the fact that you were told, without this coming in to inspect, you think that it would be, you'd be very diligent about how clean it would look.
Exactly.
Whether or not that lasts that day when they come to inspect, it should have been shown.
I agree, but
and safe.
My opinion is not entirely based on the inspection. I mean, I think the things that were documented in the inspection are egregious. However, it's disingenuous at best to say that there was a misunderstanding about the last meeting and what it applied to. And for the record, I'm being very generous when I say disingenuous. I think what we have established here is a pattern of you come in, you do the bare minimum, you drag it out to the end. There have been no significant changes in the way you operate this property. You have done nothing to indicate to me as a board member that you plan to operate it in the future as a hotel motel. So I think the facts speak for themselves. It's simple.
The only comment that I have, and I don't disagree with anything that you said, but I'm also sympathetic to the fact that there has been problems with documents going back and forth. And we're all aware of that documents that weren't intended or even approved were sent, and then if an inspection report didn't get there, I'm sympathetic to that. I'm also thinking this has to stop. This can't keep on going. And I'd be willing to take a 30-day period and say, we'll continue this. It would have to be re-inspected before I would want to have any more discussion regarding this. But it's either a yay or a nay at that time. I would be okay with that. But I do have one question for Attorney Lilly and Mr. Wenzel. Do you really intend to run this as a motel hotel as the state of Massachusetts and the town of Ayer says hotel motel? Because I guess the analogy I look at is if I'm a licensed driver and I lose my license because I did something, and let's say what I did was I refused to stop for a school bus. I will not stop for a school bus. And I come back and I say, geez, I want my license back so I can drive. And I ask you, are you going to stop for a school bus? And you say, no. Am I going to say I'm going to give you a license when I know you're not going to do what you say you're going to do? Why would I do that? So, I mean, I'm asking both of you that question. Do you plan to run this as a hotel motel, or is this just a ruse to get a license?
We absolutely plan to run this as a hotel. These 6 units, with the bigger plan for the other apartments being what they are now, to the extent that there are issues with fire, connection of buildings, absolutely, we have to comply. We have the intention of complying with what has to happen in order for this to be a hotel. Again, these 6 units. I would suggest that to respond, if I may, to what's been stated about my being disingenuous. I actually am admitted that I have made a mistake, and I just determined that based upon what I'm seeing today. I keep quiet as far as that goes. It doesn't make things look better for me
Yeah, no,
to be
it
making,
doesn't. I
to be
agree.
making that statement.
Yeah.
But I'm throwing myself on the sword here as far as my interpretation, and has been my interpretation throughout. And for good reason, as I had indicated previously, that we were told that this was limited to that. This hearing, meaning the hearing in November, was limited to that particular 6-room segment. So it is that 6-room segment that is currently before this board. We have vacated the premises. We have done everything that we had determined we were to do at the time to be in compliance so that we can come back before this board. And we've done that. We're before this board seeking that hotel motel license. Now, did we have the place in a cleaned up state, ready to be let at that point? No, we didn't. It was not an inspection from the Board of Health at that point to see if this is ready to be provided to the public. This was an inspection of the premises for fire, for the Board of Health, but also, but for the town to come in and see what was to occur. We've done that. We presented that at that point in an honest portrayal of what we had at that point, without trying to put a spit polish on things. That's not what we're trying to do.
So
we're not trying to hide things from this board or from the town.
Clearly. I do have a question for you, though. When you say that you believed that the inspection, it was for the town and to look at fire and whatnot, what did you believe to be Bridget's role?
No, I understood that the Board of Health was part of it, but I had understood it to be a preliminary inspection at that point, and that there would be a final inspection down the line.
But even if it was preliminary, wouldn't you want to put on the best?
Absolutely. I agree with that statement, absolutely.
Attorney, I appreciate your comments but the board needs to make a decision, and I think you can either approve the application, you can deny the application, or you can continue to a time certain. What's the pleasure of the board via motion? We need to make a motion.
I'd be happy to make a motion that we deny the application for the 6 rooms on the basis that the property is not, there's no sign that we have been given that we can rely on, that it's going to be treated as a hotel motel. In fact, we have all the evidence seems to be in negative column. And beyond that, there's been no compliance with the order that they were issued to vacate the property. And so it's not a hotel motel, it's just not. So that's I move that we deny the application.
And is there a second to the motion?
I second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to deny the application for a hotel. Any conversation? All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
It is a vote. That concludes the public hearing. The application that was submitted was denied. That would not preclude you from resubmitting the application again if you find you were in compliance. But I think we talked about, and you have the copy of what the Board of Health inspection was?
I have it now.
Can I just make a quick statement too? I'm sorry. So I was advised by legal counsel to hold this till the meeting, and this is just, it was a bit much, especially at the end, with furniture, so I just want to make that clear.
There's no pointing fingers.
Yeah, no, I just,
That's
you
not the
know,
intent at all.
right, but there were other things with furniture and,
Sure.
but this was just sort of what we put together.
And I guess what I would say is if your intent is to move forward to try to be compliant. I'm sure that the building inspector, the fire chief, and the police chief will be happy to reconvene if we need to, if that's what your decision is. Thank you. Thank you.
Steve, I have a question.
Yeah.
Is this an appropriate time to reinforce the fact that we all understand what the order from November meant, and that's still in effect, or no?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think tonight was just as it relates to the
To this one?
the
Okay,
application.
that's fine.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone,
Thank
for
you.
being here.
Recording stopped.
Is there a motion? No, we
Oh my
don't.
God.
It's public hearing.
No?
I don't think so. We concluded public hearing. That was it.
Okay, let's, all right. I move-
Recording in progress.
I move we close the public hearing.
I thought I did.
I seconded.
Motion's made, seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing.